Do you ever think that you know somebody and you find out, you go, oh my, what? How was I such a fool? Do you guys know Willie Saylor? I'm sure you do, but you probably know him as Matt Scout. You probably know him by some of his personalities. I've been bros with this dude for 10 years. I call him on his birthday. And he's out in Philadelphia. NCAA tournament's going down. And Willie's like cool guy at the NCAA tournament. Like, think of a UFC and you know Dana sitting right by the cage. Those are the cool guy seats. It's like Zuckerberg or Elon or President Trump, right? Those seats you can't even get. That is the treatment that Willie gets at the NCAAs. Like, he's a very meaningful person in our community. Your experience, if you didn't have Willie and you didn't have Christian, and you didn't have Willie versus Christian, but your experience would be very different. At any rate, that's who Willie is. So he goes onto social media. And man, he was talking all this trash. I should have seen this coming, and I was naive. I should have seen this coming. This was telegraphed. But he goes on social media, and he puts out a picture of something called roasted pork. And it's a sandwich. And he's telling people, if you're in Philly, of course, get the Philly cheesesteak. But don't overlook the roast pork. And he'd been saying this for days. But then he puts a picture of it. He actually goes and he gets himself this roast pork sandwich. It's disgusting. Just to look at it is disgusting. Let's attempt to dissect this. They got a good bread. They got a good, like a French, and that's very common, particularly on the East Coast, for one reason, which is they don't use mayonnaise. Not all the time. If you were ever on the West Coast, you're in Oregon and you order a sandwich, you don't ever need to ask, does it come with mayonnaise? That'd be like saying, does it come with bread? Truly. 100% it will have mayonnaise. Now, they don't always use that on the East Coast, Philadelphia specifically, so you've got a hard roll. But the relevance to that is when you scoop up your cooked meat, your hot meats, it'll be very juicy and therefore will absorb, and then that hard bread, you can now bite it without hurting the roof of your mouth. All right. So they're off to a good start. That's where it ends. First off, they build it backwards. So you've got the hoagie roll, and then they've got cheese, but it's not a slice of cheese, and it's not shredded cheese. It's not a slice of cheese, and it's not sprinkled cheese. There's cheese. There's pieces of cheese that are not melted, and then there's apparently the pork roast, which is fine. That's a fine cut. I got nothing against a pork roast. But then you got peppers. There's no mayonnaise on this thing. There's no salt. There's no pepper. There's no mustard. I don't get it. I don't think it qualifies as a sandwich. This was actually a debated topic. And it came up on David Letterman as a joke. But his guest was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And Letterman asked her, is a hot dog a sandwich? And as a member of the Supreme Court, even if in jest, she ruled on it. And she said yes. If a sandwich is to be defined as meat encased in two-sided bread, then a hot dog is, in fact, a sandwich. I have a massive problem with that definition. I have a massive problem with Willie telling people to get this. I have a massive problem. There's no mayonnaise on it. I can't even tell you how dry this looked. And so then I'm on his Twitter page, and I'm going through it, and he puts out another tweet. And he says, if you can't pick Gable, and you can't miss Messenbrink, who is your lock for number one? I don't know how to interpret this question now that I know that he can't be completely trusted. And, I used to walk a very fine line myself. I used to see myself as a storyteller, as an entertainer. Big John even called me on it. Big John McCarthy comes to me and says, hey, man, I listened to some of your stuff. You're a little loose with some of those facts. So, if you ever need help, give me a call. And I go, well, John, I'm not a reporter or a journalist. I'm a storyteller. And he kind of gave me a look. And I remember this. I remember where we were. We're at a Bellator Pearl Harbor. We're in Hawaii. And I thought about it a lot. And I thought, well, if I keep coming to you guys, and I want you to keep coming back, we have to have a relationship that what I say is accurate information. I remember no longer saying I'm an entertainer. I'm trying to get my facts right. All right, I'm just sharing a story with you because Willie tells people to get a roasted pork sandwich, which isn't even a sandwich, and then he follows it up with wanting to know who your lock of the tournament. Now he says Gable or Messenbrink. And that is very interesting. Believe it or not, he got the order wrong. Gable is not the lock that Messenbrink is. Now, feel free to fight me on that. And I wouldn't even predict that Gable is taken down. But if you want to talk about the lock, if you want to talk about who is going to score more points, fans can be very confident it's Messenbrink. But I've had a big problem all season long with two things. First off, well, I guess I should make it three. If Carter Starocci wins the 5th title, which it is almost unfathomable. It would almost be the biggest upset in sport if he was to go down. But we still got to say if. If he wins 5, he is OW. He is everything. He is Hodge. He is the one you remember. He is the athlete of the year, athlete of the week, athlete of the month, Penn State athlete of the day. He's all of those things. We've only had 2 things ever happen in wrestling. And I've watched people try to encroach. I've watched people try, well, I was a 4-time champion, and I was a 4-time champion, and we got a Pac, got a 4-time champion. They'll bring up Steve Leonard, they'll bring up Dakin. You have Pat Smith that's a 4-time champion. You have Chael Sonnen that was undefeated. You have nothing else that has ever happened in college wrestling. That is the truth. There are 2 stories in the history of wrestling. And if you really want to be tight, you could go back to the day that Larry Owens got the jump on Dan Gable. But there are not X number of 4-time champions. There's 1, Pat Smith. Chael is not even a 4-time champion. He is undefeated. Those are the only 2 stories in wrestling. Well, not so fast. Not if Starocci can pull off a 5th title. That wasn't even eligible to go back to the Larry Owens, Dan Gable days. You used to get 4 years to compete 3. Now they give you 5 years to compete 4. So then you have this world pandemic known as COVID. They scratch it like it never happened. If you were a freshman during that year and you wrestled, you come back the next year, you're a sophomore. If you were a senior, you come back the next year, you're a senior. That's literally how the NCAA ruled on it. It was a very simple bylaw to understand. We were to look at it as though it didn't happen while recognizing the results. Perfect solution. Everybody understood it. But I'm just sharing with you, if Carter becomes 5, he becomes the 3rd story in the history of wrestling. It will then be Pat Smith, it will be Chael Sonnen, it will be Carter. And no one's talking about him like that. No one's talking about him for OW. It's not even a discussion. Would you disagree with me now? The Hodge is different than OW. And OW gets misunderstood from the junior high tournament to the Olympic Games. Instead of meaning outstanding wrestler of the tournament, it becomes the outstanding wrestler in the tournament. Like if you win a tournament and you're the only NCAA champion and you win the tournament, they will give you OW. They always misunderstand their own rule and they make an outstanding wrestler in the tournament as opposed to of. Now, I'm bringing this to you because it's not even a discussion. It goes to Carter if he gets 5. The next story, though, right, and that's for the Hodge. The outstanding wrestler of the tournament is whoever in the hell wins at 174 pounds. And that's not, these aren't debated, like these aren't Chael's opinions. I could prove this point in front of a jury of our peers. Easily. Easily. You then have the unbelievable disrespect by the wrestling community against AJ Ferrari. I really can't understand. When AJ Ferrari first won, and he also goes back to COVID year, by the way, he set ratings numbers at ESPN. I work for ESPN. Is that the difference here? Do I have access to information that the rest of the world, because it wasn't a secret when I was given it. He literally had records, and he would cut promos after his match, and he would talk about how much he could deadlift. And he called himself Fast Twitch. And he talked about why he could beat everybody, and it had nothing to do with wrestling. It's because his dad's got his strength down and his flexibility. He can do the splits and he can deadlift 650. It made absolutely no sense, but in the process of doing it, not only to become a 19-year-old NCAA champion, he beat the guy that got third in the Olympic Games. I mean, it really was an incredible thing. Then comes a rumor, truly, rumor. Go look up the word rumor. There comes a rumor. And now they're acting like he doesn't exist instead of the comeback story of 2025. I really can't wrap my head around that. And then you have the outstanding wrestler in the tournament, which is Gable. And Gable's under fire. Kirklevic is not only an NCAA champion, he's had undefeated seasons, and he has 2 world age group medals right off the top of my head. I mean, there was massive problems, and then that's before you get into all of the upsets and everything else. But this isn't what Willie says. He brings up Gable and he brings up Messenbrink. He doesn't mention 74. Whoever wins 74, unless you, of course, have the 5 by Carter. If Carter pulls 5, he will be the 3rd story in wrestling history. There will be Pat Smith, there will be Chael Sonnen, there will be Carter Starocci. A sandwich has got to have mayonnaise.